What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update. And on the day after, well, the day today is Harry Kane rejection day. Never mind deadline day. We've rejected the third bid from Bayern Munich from Harry Kane, as you did cover beforehand. But just before we get into the Harry Kane update, Romano has mentioned today that Van de Ven and Alejo Belize are both completed. Paul O'Keefe says that Van de Ven is fully COYS now. So I expect probably an announcement tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd think so. Well, Romano said that the announcement's probably going to be later in the week, but yes, maybe not tomorrow, seeing as we have a game. So it's possible he's going to just save it for when they can get more attention. But I'm very happy these two signings are getting wrapped up. I think they're going to be two bits of good business for the club, and it's more future planning as well. And especially with Van de Ven, it's a key position. Or Valise, it's future planning. A young striker who has potential to really grow in the first team in the future.
Yeah, and what else Paul O'Keefe has been saying? He said that that Porro is seen as cover for right wing and right back this season. So when you're looking at the back four now taking shape, Emerson, Romero, Van de Ven, Udogie, I mean, that's a really good... I'm really liking the look of that back four.
Sounds solid. And I think on the ball as well, especially with Udogie, you have a very good quality there. Van de Ven has good line-breaking passes. When I think, look, obviously Paul O'Keefe is reporting probably how they see him at the moment. But look, the season's a very long season. People win and lose their places all the time. So you can't take it as gospel that he's going to be our backup right back for the whole season because he starts off as our backup right back. But I think it's interesting that given the pre-season games that Porro's been starting them, Emerson started the last one, and I think he did a good job. And I do think it probably gives us a bit better balance for the time being. A bit more defensive solidity. And I think Emerson just does the simple things well. And I think that's, and he allows the other players to flourish a bit better. So maybe that's how Postecoglou sees it right now.
And they all seem to be quite like units as well, tall, physical centre-backs as well, which we haven't seen in a while at Spurs. So I think next year, or this season coming, I say next year, but it's literally in 5 days' time that the Premier League starts again. But I'm really starting to look forward to this season now. But let's talk about Harry Kane. A few publications talking in the last few hours. Plettenberg says it is said that Bayern was not personally informed from Levy about the reported rejection. For Bayern, there's still no agreement yet and ongoing negotiations. Clear signal that there was never a deadline. Bayern is considering the next steps now. It's likely that the club will renew their offer again. Matt Law says that Harry Kane is adamant he will not leave Tottenham once the new Premier League season starts and has set a deadline for the end of this week for any move to be agreed. A new offer from Bayern is likely to come in the coming days. And then, he basically just reaffirms that in another tweet where he says a fourth offer from Bayern for Harry Kane is now likely, despite their deadline in the coming days, with the German club also wanting a deal sorted as soon as possible and before their season starts with the DFL Super Cup against Leipzig on Saturday. So we thought crunch time was last weekend, but we really are getting to the proper crunch time now, aren't we?
Getting into the end game, as they say. Look, I think Bayern pulled out all the tricks last week. Deadline, saying it's their final offer, take it or leave it, pulling out all the negotiation tactics. Tottenham were having none of it. Levy went on holiday and didn't even reply back to them. They've heard about the rejection through the media. Apparently, that's what Plettenberg is saying. So if that's not a diss, I don't know what is from Daniel Levy. I think he's playing it pretty well. And now Bayern have to decide whether they meant what they said when it, not with the deadline. That was obviously bullshit, but they meant what they said when it comes to it being their final offer and it being a fair offer. Or are they going to really substantially up their bid? There's talks of a 25 million gap in valuation. Sammy Mockbell was saying that that the base fee of the last bid was 73 million. Some other people have said it's more. But if Tottenham want a £100 million base fee, are Bayern Munich prepared to go that high? I still have my doubts about that. So it looks like there's a bit of a stalemate. And we know Kane, look, he seemed happy on Sunday and he scored 4 goals and he definitely seems to be buying into Postecoglou, like Andrew's saying. So I don't think there's any doubt about him downing tools or anything going into the season. So if there was any case of us being worried about a situation like it was 2 years ago, like when he played really badly for like a few months before getting his act together, I think that's not going to be the case this time around. So I think it's on Bayern to really stump up the cash. And I don't know, are they going to get to what Levy wants? I'm still doubtful. I really am.
I've been saying all along, you know what I've been saying all along, that if a bid comes of a certain amount, I think Spurs should strongly consider it. And I think it's better to get money in for your star player as opposed to let him go for free and potentially go to a rival. Having said that now, after seeing him score 4 goals on the weekend in a Spurs shirt, I thought in my mind that I was ready to see Harry Kane leave this club and it was a good time. But after seeing what I saw on Sunday and how he seems to be just fully bought into this project and what Ange was saying about him as well, I'm nowhere near ready to see the back of Harry Kane. I'm really not. And I think the way Daniel Levy is dealing with this, I think he's playing it to perfection, to be honest. So look, if a monstrous bid comes in of over £100 million, I don't think we can reject that. But if it doesn't come in, then I'm happy either way. I mean, I'm not going to be happy to see the back of Harry Kane, but I'm happy that we'll get a big fee in and hopefully start getting some targets in before the end of the window. And on the flip side, if Harry Kane does stay, we got another year of Harry Kane at the very minimum. So I think you can take the positives from both situations.
Exactly. I think the best case scenario, like the worst case scenario, is we get a monstrous fee from Bayern Munich, and he ends up leaving. Look, he can still stay. There's still Dan Kilpatrick reiterated talks that he reiterated the report. That he would be open to looking at his contract over the course of this year. He's not completely ruled that out. As far away as that looks right now, never say never in football. And we know what connection Kane has to the club. If we really are moving in a good direction, you can never say never. So if we sell him, we know that is completely ruled out. He's definitely not going to stay. But if we keep him, all you can do is try your best to convince him. And you never know.
Yeah, you do never know at the end of the day. But look, I do fully expect Bayern to come in with a big bid now with their 4th bid. Do you think it will be enough for us to accept?
Well, surely you would think if they're putting in a bid a few days before the deadline, it has to be a more serious bid than the bids they've been trying to lowball us with for all these weeks. But then a part of me thinks if they were ever going to get to that figure, they would have done it already. But do I think my gut's telling me they're not going to? It's not going to. My gut is telling me these reports of a likely 4th bid are just them trying to show strength. I don't think they're going to reach the figure that we want. I really don't.
As much as I think maybe Bayern can potentially get to that offer. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I just can't imagine Harry Kane playing in any other shirt for the rest of his career. I mean, can you actually imagine him putting on that Bayern shirt and going out in the Allianz Arena in that red shirt and scoring goals in the German league? I mean, I just can't envisage it. As much as I've been saying that I think it probably will happen throughout the window, the more and more I think about it, I just can't see him pulling on any other shirt apart from Tottenham Hotspur, whether that be in the Premier League or anyone outside of Europe. But I think if Bayern do, I don't think Bayern are going to get to that figure now. I agree with you. I think if it's come all this way to this stage where we're so close to the season now, they haven't stumped up. Are they ever going to stump up? That's the big question.
Exactly. And Levy's made it clear now that it's either that or they're not going to accept a bid. And I think Bayern thought we were going to be forced to accept. Essentially, they were going to bully us into accepting their bid, and now they've learned that that's not the case. Now we'll know how serious they are. Are they going to go big and try and go for the whole marketing thing, or are they going to look at the reality of signing a 30-year-old for 100 million and bulk at it? I think testing days. I really don't think they will. But look, if they do and we get a big bid, then you've got to say it is what it is, and we have to move on.
It's basically put up or shut up time now for Bayern Munich, one or the other, and we'll see what happens in the coming days. Let's move on. Let's talk about Gift Orban. Sasha Tavoleri says that Tottenham are in contact with Ghent for Gift Orban. Spurs could go as high as 30 million euros, including bonuses, according to their latest discussions with their Belgian counterparts. The profile has been validated by Ange Postecoglou. The green light to send the written offer is linked to the Harry Kane affair. So, I mean, I personally think that we should be going for this guy regardless. I think that even if Harry Kane stays, we should probably put in a bid and potentially loan him back or something, or send him on loan somewhere else for the season. Like I said so many times, I believe in this guy's talent so much, but I can see why. Obviously, it would be linked to the Harry Kane saga.
Look, you see clubs like Chelsea, you see clubs like Man City, you see other clubs do similar things, like buy a player who looks like he's on the up, and then you could even sell him without even playing a game. That's happened at Chelsea, where they've bought players and then they've put them out on loan. They've really impressed, and they sell them for a massive profit. Now, I'm not saying we should do that, but what I am saying is, I'm not saying we should buy him and then sell him, but what I'm saying is we should buy him, and regardless of the Kane situation, because we know that if he keeps smashing it on loan, either Kane leaves and then we can put him in the first team squad, or if Kane signs a contract and Orban thinks it's going to be difficult to get into the team, if he continues to have a brilliant year, you can probably get more than that 20 million in a year's time, potentially. Or you can send him out on another loan in a European league, in a major European league, and then if he has a good season, then all of a sudden his price will triple. So I think it's a smart piece of business for 20 million pounds or euros, whatever. For 20 million,
30 million euros, yeah,
30 million euros. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it makes complete sense. I think you're onto a good thing if we do this. So I think regardless of the Kane situation, we should be doing it. Whether we do it regardless of the Kane situation is another matter. Whether Spurs just think then it's not worth the outlay. Now we've got Valise already with 15 million. Richarlison's still there. Maybe they're thinking and adding another striker for a figure of over 20 million. Is it worth the outlay with the risk of losing all that money if Kane ends up staying or whatever? I think that would be a short-term view of things. If they're looking at the long term, I think it makes sense to buy him.
You got to remember as well, there's Troy Parrott and Dane Scarlett to think about as well. And as well, some other players coming through. I mean, Dane Scarlett, how was he, 18, 19? You'd still expect him to go on loan this season, potentially even next season as well. But Gift Orban's probably a player that can come in and be part of the first team squad straight away. But does that kind of block pathways to these kind of players?
Yeah, potentially, to be honest, depending how ready they are. I guess you never really know how ready you are until you're given a chance. So if someone like Gift Orban at his age, especially if he's going to be as good as he looks like he's going to be, then you have to say you are risking it blocking a pathway if you do buy him. But then that's what I'm saying. You're not married to, as much as, if you sign him, you have to sell him the project, and he has to believe he's going to be part of the team. But if at the end of the day, if you sign him and then you loan him out, you could always sell him. You don't have to. He doesn't have to be here. So if you really believe Dane, it could be just as good. So you can make some money from it. So I think it will just be a smart piece of business of Tottenham just sign him and see where the deal takes us, basically.
Yeah, all you need to do is look at Florian Balogun, right? Arsenal. Hardly ever played a minute for Arsenal. Gone on loan to Reims in the French league, scored 20 plus goals there, and now they're demanding 50 million for him. So, I mean, we definitely could do something similar with Gift Orban, but I would really love to see him in a Spurs shirt one day because I really believe in his talents. But let's move on and talk about Brennan Johnson. Dan Kilpatrick saying that Tottenham remain interested in Johnson and are weighing up a bid that could involve them offering Forest a choice of Jed Spence, Joe Rodon and Brian Hill as part of any deal. They were talking about 50 million potentially. That's the price that they want to sell him for. When you're talking about these three players, we've heard today that Jed Spence is on the transfer list. Brian Hill, not sure what's going on with him, and Joe Rodon is obviously on the transfer list. I really believe in Brian Hill. I think that he could be a star, to be honest. I really do. But if you're looking at him compared to Brennan Johnson, Brennan Johnson's just ready-made, ready to come into our team, ready to play in the Premier League, where Brian Hill, we've seen sample sizes of him and do good stuff in the Premier League, but never on a consistent basis like we've seen with Brennan Johnson. So if I was to say to Nottingham Forest, you take Jed Spence and Brian Hill for Brennan Johnson, I would take that.
Yeah, I think so. I think those three players, Spence,
or even all three, I would give them all three.
Yeah, isn't that what the deal is? All those three players.
It's a choice of.
I would give them all three, and maybe even a bit of money on top to get Brennan Johnson, because we can't.
I don't think all three equate to more than 50 million, though.
50?
Yeah.
How?
I would say Brian Hill, I could say, probably valued at about 20, 25 million, with the future he could have ahead of him. And then Joe Rodon and Jed Spence, 25 for the pair.
So you're basically equaling 50 million at a stretch, I would say. I would argue. I think I would say Rodon's not 10 million in this market. We can't shift him. Spence, maybe he's still about 15 million, but you could argue his price has gone down. And Hill, I don't think Hill's 25 million right now. So I do think I think it's probably
Europa League winner, my friend.
Yeah, yeah, true. I think he's a good player, but I think right now in the Premier League, Brennan Johnson has the physicality that is just more suited to the Premier League. Albeit we haven't seen Hill.
That's why he's double the price, 50 million.
We haven't seen Hill, to be fair, in play for Ange yet, and you never know how he would adapt to that system. Maybe he would be good, but I think I do wonder where Brennan Johnson fits in under Ange. Is he a wide player, or is he going to be playing more up front? Because
I would say competition with Kulu.
Yeah, but I guess he gives us a different option. He can go kind of on the outside. We don't have another option like that on the right, so he could do that. I haven't seen like too many good one-on-one dribbling things from him in a Forest shot. I like him like bursting into space in transitions. He's good at that. I haven't seen him like get the ball and drive at players and take them on too often. So maybe that's something that he'll add to his game. But if those three players are willing to go to Forest and they're willing to do that deal, I would probably do it just because I think it's worth it to get that kind of asset instead of spending the money. We get rid of players we don't want, essentially, and we get a player who is highly sought after right now and is still 22, banging goals in the Premier, getting a lot of goals in the Premier League, and could get even better.
It's a strange one with Jed Spence, though, because he came with such a big reputation at the end of last season after a flying season for Forest in the Championship. No manager seemed to fancy him. Conte didn't want to touch him at all. Anyone that came in at the back end of last season didn't want to touch him. Or he was on loan, to be fair. But now Ange Postecoglou as well wants to put him on the transfer list. So, I mean, do you think something's going on behind closed doors there?
Well, there's rumours of attitude problems, all that. Well, when Neil Warnock didn't like his attitude, we know that. But then he kind of proved him wrong with how he played at Forest. Part of me thinks that Porro and Emerson are still young. They're still they're not even that much older than Spence. So if that's who they're choosing, is there really a pathway right now for Spence? Unfortunately. And he's in a part of his career. He got a big Premier League move, but it's not worked out for him. He probably wants to start playing regularly again. He wants to find a place where he really believes he's going to be part of the team. And as long as Porro and Emerson are here, can he see that pathway while they're ahead of him? And yeah, you could argue, loan him out, and maybe the year Porro might be out of favour or Emerson might be out of favour. Maybe he might have a shot. But if them two are doing well, then he's not gonna have a shot. So I think at this point, it's probably best for his career. I would say from a Tottenham's point of view, it's probably worth another loan just to see if we can get the value up.
The Premier League loan.
Exactly. But from Spence's point of view, I'm not surprised if he wants out and just wants a transfer.
Yeah, very frustrating because I was one that was banging that Jed Spence drum before he came. It looked like he was really suited to maybe what Conte wanted to do, flying up the wings, but it just didn't seem to materialise for him. But is what it is. If Ange doesn't want him, then it's probably best just to cut our losses now and sell. Next up, let's talk about Max Kilman. Tim Spears says that Tottenham's recruitment team were very keen on Max Kilman, but Postecoglou was not. He did not have the recovery pace required for Ange's system. And I can understand that completely.
Yeah, I think so. I don't even think Kilman is slow, but he's not in the when you're looking at the kind of centre backs with real pace and real ability in that front. Obviously, he's not there. He's not Van de Ven level at all, or Tapsoba. I wouldn't say he's Eric Dyer level pace. I don't think he's a slow coach like that kind of level. But if you're looking to really improve the team and looking for that real recovery pace, then yeah, he's probably an option. I'm not saying I think he could do a job for us, but if you're looking to accelerate basically how Postecoglou wants to play, Kilman would be the kind of player you kind of make do with because you can afford him and he can do a job, but he's not really perfect for what you want. Whereas Van de Ven, I think, could really be perfect for that role. So I think it makes sense if Postecoglou kind of vetoed that, especially because Kilman, they're rejecting big offers for him. So if it's going to be an expensive deal, then it's definitely not worth it if he's not completely perfect. So I think that makes sense. But at the beginning of the window, I wasn't too against the signing of Kilman because I would have assumed he was quite a cheap option, but it turns out he's not going to be. So I think it makes sense.
But this next one, last one that we're going to talk about, Aymeric Laporte, ex-West Ham employee who's a West Ham ITK and usually fairly reliable. He says Laporte has been told he can leave Man City now with Tottenham and Arsenal interested. I mean, we've said it a number of times how perfect Laporte would be. I think he's an absolutely top player. And if you bring him in, our defense just like improves dramatically, even what it is now.
Yeah, and Van de Ven has someone to learn off massively as well. And immediately you're looking at that back line and that centre backs, and that's like, wow, what options you have there. And I kind of feel like this news might even come a bit too late, because maybe if this came before the Van de Ven deal got wrapped up, maybe we would have pushed ahead of it. And now that we've wrapped up, we've kind of overpaid a bit for Van de Ven. Are they going to push the boat out and get a Laporte as well when they've really bulked at Tapsoba? Depending how much they want for Laporte, I'm assuming they probably want less for Laporte than by Leverkusen want for Tapsoba, which is probably makes sense. But whether he wants to come here, we're willing to put the outlay of at least 35 million. I think there's a lot of moving part of wages as well. He's probably going to want quite a big wage packet. I'm sure he's on a big one at Man City. So I think there's too many moving parts for me to think this
He's
deal
on 120, so it's nothing that we can't afford.
Okay. Maybe we can give him, 150, 180, something like that. Give him a nice little pay increase. Maybe that's something we can do. I just think there's a lot of moving parts, which lends me to believe that it's probably not likely. But I'd love to be pleasantly surprised. I think what a signing he would be for us.
He'd be incredible. And I always want to think that, he's not the quickest of players in terms of, what we were talking about, Max Kilman, and with the recovery pace for Ange's system. But I'm looking at it now in terms of top speeds of the Man City squad. And he actually sits in fifth place.
Well, the reason why
place, actually, after Haaland, Walker, and Cancelo, then it's Laporte above Alvarez and Rico Lewis.
It's the pace isn't why Pep stopped playing him. It was more about aggression and physicality, which I think he lacks a bit. I don't think he's like he's not weak, but when you're comparing him to Ake and Akanji and Diaz and Stones, I think he's probably lacking in that department. So when it comes to physical duels, I think he loses out on that. What he's brilliant at, obviously, he's playing out the back. I think he's a pretty quick defender. But I think City were going in a direction where they wanted more physical defenders, just to make sure that they're stopping the transition counterattacks and very good in one-on-one defending, like duels and stuff like that up against players. Whereas Laporte, I'm not saying he's a liability by any stretch, but when he was always someone who got caught maybe more than the other defenders potentially. So maybe that's why they looked to upgrade him. Well, I wouldn't even say call it an upgrade. I'd just say they want something different. It's just a different player, different type of defender. So I don't think it's a detriment on Laporte as to why he stopped playing. I just think he went in a different direction. And I think Man City's loss will be someone else's gain.
Where obviously promptly he'll play on the left-hand side if we were to sign him, and him Van de Ven fighting for that spot. But can he play on the right-hand side if needed too?
Haven't seen it. There's always something funny about Premier League players about playing left-footed. They're fine playing right-footers on the left. They're not fine playing left-footers on the right for some reason.
Probably because there's not that many left-footers. There's more right-footers than left-footers.
There seems to be some sort of stigma about it. Maybe it's because of the lack of supply. I think, could he play on the right? I don't see why not, to be honest. I don't see why not. It's just we have this preconceived notion in our minds that left footers are better on the left, but right footers can play both. And I don't think that's necessarily true. So, but we've never seen it. I've never seen him play on the right. So I don't have any evidence to suggest he can.
So how do you see our defence lining up if we were to sign Laporte next season? I mean, surely he goes in above Van de Ven straight away.
Yeah, and then Van de Ven becomes our third choice centre-back. And then Van de Ven could also fill in at left-back. I don't know where that leaves someone like Ben Davies or Dyer.
All these players, their contracts are running down anyway. I mean, by the end of, not this season, but next season, all those players would have their contracts done, pretty much. All the players that we don't want. So, I mean, for the future, it doesn't really matter too much. But maybe in the short term, it will decrease his game time.
Yeah, potentially. I think he goes ahead of Van de Ven, though, for sure. Look, when you're talking about Aymeric Laporte, this is a Premier League winner. He's still at a decent age. I think 28 is he? He's not old.
29, yeah.
29, still a good age for a centre back. He's still at the top level. So I think you've got to put him ahead of Van de Ven right now.
Yeah, totally agree. But that is your Tottenham update for today. We'll be back tomorrow with some more news for you when more Harry Kane news does break and potentially some more incomings. But it's interesting, the Laporte links, because Ange was saying on the weekend, wasn't he, that he wants to bring in another 2 players in that position, or potentially 2 players. So if it is Laporte and Van de Ven, I mean, we have pushed the boat out and got 2 really good centre-backs in there. And the defence is really shaping up for the season. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.